Well, hello and well met. Welcome to the fire. Here's a story about a GM who wanted to have his own special character to be the star of the story, so he killed off one of his players' characters to force them to play that character. The GM killed my character to have me play his GMPC, r/RPG horror stories, posted by Dance Metal. Obligatory, this happened years ago. Way back in the day, back in the glory days you might say, I was a dark, brooding, and edgy teenager who was obsessed with TTRPGs. And what do all grungy edgelord teenagers play? Old World of Darkness games. For context, it was only Old World Darkness because the New World Darkness hadn't come out yet. This particular story happened during a game of Werewolf the Apocalypse, and I was playing basically your stereotypical nerd who was obsessed with technology and much younger than the rest of the pack, like 14 or 15 years old I think. His backstory was that he was a shy and inquisitive young person who was horribly bullied for years, but found solstice in robotics and other hard sciences. At some point during a particularly brutal beatdown, he awakened and basically ate his bullies. It was years later that I realized that maybe I was working through some stuff. Anyway, the really interesting thing about this character were the special gifts that were unique to him, that the GM and I homebrewed together. Each of his gifts manifested on his body as some sort of technological graft or augmentation, and he basically looked like a cyborg werewolf in his battle form. The way we were role-playing it was to say he was touched by the Weaver, who constantly kept trying to entice him with visions of mechanical perfection, and this manifested in more difficult social roles with other werewolves. All in all, it was hella fun to play, even if he wasn't the strongest character on the battlefield. During the game, the GM has his own player character interacting with us that was basically a rage tank. The dude's stats were ridiculous and had so many rage points, he was basically unstoppable. But that didn't really bother us. Like most groups of teenagers, we were prone to jokes and were frequently riding full tilt off the rails, and the GMPC was mostly there to keep us on track. That was of course until the GM wanted to take the story in a new direction with a whole plot centered on his GMPC, but he didn't think it would be fun for us to have him GM a game centered on how his PC was the chosen savior of wolfkind. Enter his brilliant compromise. He decided that he would have one of the players take over his character, and he would become just a GM. And since he thought I was the best at role-playing, he decided to kill off my character so that I would be free to play his. To his credit, he tried to make my character's death as hardcore as possible, but it basically amounted to having our group getting captured and my PC being tortured to death. Afterwards, he handed me his character sheet and asked that I take over as the aforementioned rage tank. That particular game dissolved not long after, and I eventually lost track of those guys. I've been our current group's primary DM for the game of 5e we've been running for over a year now, and I've run multiple games on multiple systems since. And I'll tell you what, I learned something about player agency that day that I've applied to every single game I've ever been a part of. Never sacrifice player engagement to fit your personal narrative. It's all about having fun after all. As I said before, I'm not a fan of GMPCs. Let your players be the star of the story. At least in this story, the GM decided to let someone else take control of their very special boy. But honestly, how difficult would it be to just let the savior of wolfkind just be one of the other characters? And that's our story. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button for more future content. Also, if you would kindly follow the socials posted in the description, that would be amazing. As always, be good, be great, be awesome.